This is problem 13, practice C, for chapter 6.3. And we're asked to find f of g of x. And we're told that f of x is equal to 2x squared minus x, and we're told that g of x is equal to x to the minus 1/2. We're asked to perform the indicated operation, which is this right there, and we're also asked to state the domain, that and the domain. Well, since I know that I'm going to have to be dealing with the domain of the composite function, I should probably figure out what is the domain of my two individual functions first. So when I'm looking at my f of x here, I can see that it is a quadratic function, and I know that all quadratic functions have the domain of all real numbers, from negative infinity to positive infinity. And when I'm looking at my g of x, well, this is a little bit more complicated. So g of x is x to the negative 1/2, which is the same thing as 1 over x to the 1/2. Well, that'd be the same thing as 1 over the square root of x, and I know we don't like square roots in the denominator. But when I'm thinking about this for domain, it's certainly telling me that I can't have 0. And 0 cannot be as part of my domain because I can't have the square root of 0 as a denominator, because then that'll make this undefined. And the other thing I know is that I can't have, x has to be, cannot be negative. So I can't have any negative numbers because I can't take the square root of a negative number in the domain of this function. So I think my domain of g of x is going to be positive real numbers, which I can write as parentheses 0, comma, infinity. So those are my two domains for f of x and g of x right there. Let's write that on there. Domain f of x and domain g of x, so that I have it when I return back to this page. So now I've rewritten my my problem on a clean sheet, and I want to find the composition of f of g of x, and I rewrote f of x and I rewrote g of x. So how am I going to do that? Well, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to find out, excuse me, I want to plug g of x into my function f of x. So every place that I have an x in my f of x, I want to replace that with my function g of x. So I'm going to go f of x to the minus 1/2 is equal to 2 times x to the minus 1/2 squared. And be careful of the exponent theory. The only thing that is squared is the x to the minus 1/2. The 2 is not squared. Minus, again, I'm going to replace it. I like to use parentheses, x to the minus 1/2. Well, that leaves me, let's scroll up a little bit. Oops, go away. Back. Thank you. Okay. I can work on this part right here. This is going to give me 2. And if I have x to the minus 1/2 squared, that's going to give me x to the minus 1. Because I just multiply my power squared times my power of 1/2, and that gives me x to the minus 1 minus x to the minus 1/2. So this is giving me 2 over x minus 1 over x to the 1/2. Are we okay with that? I think so. Here I am talking to the class when nobody's here. Well, I have a radical in my denominator right here, and I don't like that, because x to the minus 1/2 is the same as the square root of x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this term times x to the 1/2 over x to the 1/2, because that is equal to 1, and I can do that. So now I have 2 over x minus x to the 1/2 over x. I wrote this incorrectly over here. It's not 2 over 2, it's 2 over x. Because my x to the 1/2 times 1 is x to the 1/2. And my x to the 1/2 times x to the 1/2 gives me x to the first, because I'm adding the two exponents. 1/2 plus 1/2 is equal to 1. That's x to the first. So now I have as my answer, because I have a common denominator in x right here, I have as my answer 2 minus x to the 1/2 over x. I need to find my domain by both looking at my composition function right here. And my composition function tells me that x cannot be equal to 0, because otherwise it will be undefined. And it's also telling me that x has to be greater than 0, because I can't have the square root of a negative number. And not surprisingly, I can go back to my original function, my original two functions, and I can find that that is my domain of my g of x, which is the most restrictive of the domains of the two, because my domain of f of x was all real numbers. So the domain of my composition function, domain is equal to 0 with the parentheses, because it's not included, infinity. All non-negative real numbers.